Ubisoft hates gamers. Really? Who would have expected? The next thing you're gonna say is that Ubisoft probably, especially hates Hitler body pillow enthusiast chuds like me and you even more than normal gamers. I'm shocked, I tell you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, looks like Ubisoft is back at it again. If you guys were unaware, Ubisoft got into a lot of trouble back when one of their executives decided to make this statement that, players need to get comfortable in not owning their games. It's something that they really desperately want gamers to get used to, just like everybody else has gotten used to, right? The DVD market, all these different places have gotten used to not owning physical media, and they're constantly trying to push you into digital content because it benefits the company, right? It doesn't benefit the
The irony of saying that players need to get used to not owning their games, and literally just a couple of months after being on the brink of bankruptcy, is is the greatest form of karma ever seen.
consumer in any way, aside from maybe saving space, but it benefits the company. So now, apparently, Ubisoft has made the claim yet again in an ownership lawsuit over the racing game The Crew. If you guys don't remember, The Crew essentially got deleted off the face of the earth because it was no longer being supported by Ubisoft, and now people were actually suing them over this predicament.
By the way, not to defend Ubisoft, I'm not gonna lie. Turns out The Crew was literally a 10 plus year old game or something like that. It was ancient, okay? And yeah, it sucks that it got canceled, but I'm personally of the opinion that, hey, if a game has been online for 10 plus years and there's literally one person playing it like every second day and that's accidentally someone's cat logging in, maybe you have the right to actually, shut down the servers. I'm just saying, not to defend Ubisoft, but in general, I think that's reasonable.
Into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. We'll greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Now, I just find this to be absolutely hilarious because Ubisoft is in a place that is not a very good place. Let's be honest, right? Like, Ubisoft is in a place that is very bad, considering that they had to sell their souls to Tencent, and Tencent basically owns.
Funniest part, not even once, but twice they had to do it. 10 out of 10. Hey, Bungie had to sell their souls to Sony. At least they did it once.
Them more than they ever did, but still, you got to get used to not owning your games. But Ubisoft sure as hell didn't get used to not owning all of their company anymore.
If I don't own the games that I buy, well, I do definitely own the games that I pirate. Just saying.
In a newly uncovered court filing, Ubisoft has stated that players never actually owned their copies of The Crew, but instead received a limited license to access the game. The declaration comes as part of the ongoing Ubisoft game ownership lawsuit filed in California.
Not surprising, honestly.
After the company shut down the game's servers in March 2024, making it completely unplayable. Now, this is the problem with digital media, right? This is something that I'm happy that Steam has taken a certain stance against, right? Steam is basically very similar in the sense that it's all digital, right? You don't own any physical copies of the video games, but Steam has come out and said openly that if the company were to ever shut down, they would essentially go the route of GOG, where you would be able to own the game regardless of whether or not Steam is around or not. It will always be.
Oh, I did not know that. I guess that's kind of cool, but I feel that this is slightly misleading because Steam was forced, I think it was in California, to openly to just state blatantly that you do not own the games that you buy on Steam. And, that's a thing. Very interesting.
Available in your library.
Also, this is effectively a PR move that literally just takes nothing and makes you look good. So, saying this, I would have said more.
On your PC. It's something that's very important for a lot of people that are buying on the Steam platform. But it looks like Ubisoft and all these other companies, because it's not just Ubisoft doing this, all these other companies don't exactly have this same, mindset. If they could take away something from you that you already paid for, they absolutely will. And then they'll sell it to you later down the line.
Listen, when Bethesda's launcher stopped existing, because who the fuck wants to use a Bethesda launcher? I mean, am I right? Ubisoft, delete your launcher. Everyone knows it's bullshit. Anyway, when Bethesda deleted their launcher, they made you, in a certain amount of days, to need to link up your Steam account with it and do a lot of other bullshit so your games get saved. They didn't give you a code that you can input in Steam or anything like that so you can do it. They forced you to do this in X amount of time in hopes that people will lose their bought copies of things, and then when they want to play it again or are thinking about it, they have to, well, buy it again on Steam this time. There's always some scumbaggery.
Again, at somewhat, point in time, but if they could take it away, they will. It says the class action lawsuit, originally filed in November of 2024, claims that Ubisoft failed to clearly disclose the nature of the transaction, selling a fully priced product while retaining the right to revoke access at any time. In February 2025, Ubisoft filed a motion to dismiss the case. To be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that this is happening. I feel like a lawsuit of this magnitude needs to happen more often, because these companies are definitely using terminology that makes you feel as if you're purchasing something and not just renting something. And that's
Yeah.
basically what they're doing. They're trying to make it seem as if you are renting your video games, that you
I mean, it's a buy button, not a rent button for a reason.
don't actually own anything, even though you paid the full retail price as the same person who physically owns the game. But here's the funny thing: the person who physically bought the game, it doesn't matter. The game is still shut down and you can't play it anyway. I believe the crew had a physical copy, if I'm not mistaken, and those people can't even play the game either. According to the core documents reviewed by Polygon, Ubisoft's legal team stated the following: the reality is that consumers received the benefit of their bargain and were explicitly notified at the time of purchase that they were purchasing a license. The filing further claims that Ubisoft allegedly misled purchasers of its video game The Crew into believing they were purchasing unfettered ownership rights in the game, rather than a limited license to access the game. Ubisoft also argued that no actual harm occurred.
This is never gonna go through, by the way. Because there's this thing in courts where unreasonable bullshit doesn't even need to be proven or whatnot. If a completely unreasonable take is being made, then it just gets thrown out. And the reality is, yes, I'm gonna go say something positive about Ubisoft. I mean, yeah, well, is this the opposite day or something? I don't know. But the reality is that the statement that an online game should be played forever and the servers should be up forever is a blatantly retarded statement in general. No sane person expects an online game to be on forever. If you have spent money on it or whatever, every single person knows that the game is gonna some point stop existing. When will it be? Well, we don't exactly know, but we know it will stop existing after some point. And there are reasonable times when you can say, "Hey, I bought this game because I thought I'm gonna be able to play it online, and it only lasted 2 months." Not even a Concord reference. Concord died in 2 weeks, 10 out of 10. But if you buy a game and it's supposed to be online and it shut down in 2 months, yeah, you're expected to get a refund. But if it shuts down in, like, I don't know, 10 years, are you expected to get a refund? I'm pretty sure you got your money's worth from that point. Most people would probably say that. Because, again, thinking that you're going to be able to play an online game forever is blatantly an untrue statement, and everyone knows it.
Dismissing the plaintiff's claims of false advertising and unfair competition by stating that there was no cognizable injury. What the fuck? Oh my god, dude. Ubisoft is such a massive joke in this regard, and it's amazing to watch these lawyers go through all of these loopholes that they themselves try to create with their terms of service. If you ever read a terms of service from any company, you realize the amount of loopholes that are in those TOSs.
Actually, most of the time it's not loopholes, it's literally just, you can't sue us for anything. So, Graham is gonna go into slavery now, thank you very much. And it's like, you don't know anything that you buy, this is just a license. This has been the situation for 15 years, maybe, straight up now at this point. We don't know anything. Again, you don't own the shit on Steam.
are ridiculous. And most people don't care. They'll just scroll through the TOS and click accept without even realizing what they're accepting because they don't care. They just want to play the game. But ultimately, you're giving them full power to do almost whatever the hell they want to do with what you just spent money on. But then it says when the crew launched in 2014, it was marketed and sold like any other standard video game, which was priced at $59.99 in both physical and digital formats. So it did have a physical format. That's huge. That's huge in my opinion, because here's the thing. The game is unplayable in both physical and digital formats, right? If they're trying to argue that you just bought the license to the game and that is it, so what the hell is the physical copy? What's the disc? The disc is not a license. The disc is a physical copy. You should be owning what you purchase. However, the game required a persistent internet connection.
I'm pretty sure the disc is technically the license because there's the license on the disc. It's the code. I'm pretty sure that's actually how it's kind of supposed to work. I'm not 100% sure, but that should be it.
To function, even for single player content. When Ubisoft ended support and shut down the servers, the game became completely inaccessible. That's ridiculous. If it had single player content, you should be able to have an offline mode. This is why games like Multiverses, this is why games like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League are having offline modes to avoid lawsuits like this, because the moment you take down that game that people spent money on,
No. The reason Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has an offline mode is because they kind of hope that you're not going to ask the refund because it has an offline mode when they inevitably shut down. That's why they do it. These companies just implement reasoning, dumb reasoning most of the time, obviously, about to create situations where they can kind of goad you into, not asking for a refund. That is the reality of the situation here, okay? That's what they're trying to do. Everything these companies do in general is just some kind of attempt at getting you to not press the refund button when you can, okay? That's why so many things, when you press the refund button, you have to, do you want a refund? Yes. Do you really, really want a refund? Yes. Would your grandma die if you didn't refund? And you kind of press no. And then they ask you, are you really sure that you want a refund? Because it seems like not a lot is at stake here, bucko. And then you say still yes. And then they're like, can you write us a 257 trillion word essay on why refunding our game is the most horrible thing you have ever done in your life? All of these moves are literally blatantly just made so you don't want a refund. Very simple, honestly.
you are going to run into a massive problem. I don't know why Ubisoft has not thought of adding an offline mode to the crew. I feel like that should be the easiest thing in the world.
Well, probably no. That literally requires a team of developers and spending money for not a lot of fucking gain. It's all about gain at the end of the day. And at this point, that's just stupid. From at least Ubisoft's perspective. From a consumer's perspective, this is 10 out. That would be 10 out of 10, honestly. But again, that's not the world we live in, boys, sadly.
To do it could save you a headache like this, and yet they refuse to do so. In their amended complaint filed in March of 2025, plaintiffs submitted images of the physical packaging. The activation code listed an expiration date of 2099, which the plaintiffs argue misled consumers into believing they were buying a product with long-term viability. Ooh, that's huge. That is
This is bullshit. They're never winning. Oh my god, I'm actually gonna name this video Ubisoft Wins Ubisoft wins the first time in their lives. There's no way this is gonna work out. Well, at least I believe that with my extremely non-existent lawyer experience that this is probably not gonna work out. No one even saw this. Like, no one even looked at this.
is huge. An activation code with an expiration of 2099. That is huge. A new claim introduced in the amended filing concerns in-game currency. The plaintiffs argue that purchases of currency within the crew fall under California's gift certificate laws, which prohibit expiration. Because the game was made unplayable, any remaining currency effectively expired, prompting an additional legal complaint on that basis.
Oh, that actually sounds something like they actually could win on. But that would honestly just mean unused currency is gonna be given back to you as money. And in this situation, I wonder if there's any law prohibiting them just saying, okay, well, if you don't use your currency now in like 5 minutes, it's gone. It's gone, buddy. I wonder if that's actually prohibited.
This element of the Ubisoft game ownership lawsuit raises broader questions about digital economies, DLC, and microtransactions, especially in games where publisher controlled servers.
It doesn't. We all already know this stuff. This is not the first rodeo, honestly. Anyway, that was Hypnotic. 10 out of 10. Bye!